Hello everybody, this is Solar Tiger with another solar power video. And in the last video I showed you that I bought a new solar charge controller, the Victron Energy Smart Solar MPPT 100/20. This is the charge controller here. Now, I mentioned in the last video that you can view the controller over Bluetooth. You can monitor it remotely as there is no display on the controller, and I will show you. You download the app, the Victron Control app, and it connects via Bluetooth, and you can see here my charge controller. You click on it to connect to it, and then you can view the data. It takes a few seconds to connect to it, and here we are. This is the app, and you can see that the solar panels are not producing any power at the moment because it is the night time. It's 9 o'clock at night, but you can see that in the daytime this would show the power coming in, the voltage and the current from the solar panel, the voltage of your battery bank. At the moment mine is at 12.52 volts. The weather today has been very bad and not much sun coming in, so that is the voltage of the battery bank. If you were charging it, then you'd have a positive value here, and if you were drawing a load, you'd have a negative value. The load would be connected to the load output. Anything you connected directly to the battery bank, like my inverter, would not show up here. You need to have a battery monitor for that, which I don't have at the moment. Well, I have a battery monitor, but mine only measures volts and amps. It doesn't measure the amp hours or watt hours, so I might be getting a different one soon. So the app also gives you 30 days history of what you have produced, and it shows you how long the controller spent in bulk, absorption or float modes. So that's what it does. But obviously this only works if you're within Bluetooth range of the controller. If you want to monitor the controller when you was out of the house, for example, this would not work. Now I wanted to do that too, so I went and did some research on the internet, and you have two choices for remote monitoring. Victron Energy actually make a device. It's this device here, the Color Control GX, and this connects to the internet and it connects to your Victron devices. Now my solar charge controller has a VE direct port, and you connect a cable to that, and the other end will plug into this Color Control GX. Now this device is very useful, and it connects to your devices, and it also links to the Victron Energy VRM remote portal, where you can monitor your system over the internet. There is no charge for this service, and it is very useful. The only trouble is that this device costs about £300, and that was out of my budget. So I needed to do this a different way. Unfortunately, Victron Energy provide a way to do this. What you can do is, in place of this, you can use a much cheaper Raspberry Pi, and they have a version of the software from this device that will run on the Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi costs a lot less than £300, and so that's the option I took. So over here I went on eBay and I bought a Raspberry Pi. This one is the Model 3B Plus and it has built-in Wi-Fi, but I'll come to that later. So how this works is you use a VE direct to USB cable to connect the charge controller to the USB port on the Raspberry Pi. Now, since the Raspberry Pi has 4 USB ports, you could potentially connect 4 different devices to it. So you can expand your system. So the Raspberry Pi runs on 5 volts, which is supplied through a micro USB cable. And to get 5 volts from my 12 volt solar power system, this cable runs over here to a cheap DC to DC converter. It converts 12 volts to 5 volts, and these are very cheap. They only cost £3 or £4 on eBay, and it's connected to the load output. It's connected to the battery side of my solar power system, but I'll come to that later. So the Raspberry Pi costs about £25 plus delivery, so that was very cheap compared to the Victron device that cost over £300. Okay, this device doesn't have a screen, but I'll come back to that later. So to set up the Raspberry Pi, you need a Raspberry Pi. You'll need a micro SD card and an adapter to put it in your computer, because you'll need to put the operating software onto the micro SD card, and you will need your computer to do that. My computer has an SD slot, so I got an adapter to convert the micro SD card to an SD card. You will also need an Ethernet cable. It doesn't have to be very long. And you will need an internet router that has a Ethernet port free. So what you do is you go to the Victron Energy website, and in the download section of the website you download the software for the Raspberry Pi. It's a compressed file, so you will need to decompress it on your computer and then use a program to copy the software image to the micro SD card. And on my computer I used a program called Berliner Etcher, and that was quite simple. You just tell it which device is your card reader and the file that you want to use, and it does the rest. I used a 32 gig micro SD card as it's what I had around, but you could probably get away with using a 16 gig card or maybe even an 8 gig card, but it's what I had and I didn't have to buy another one. So to begin with, to set up your Raspberry Pi, you copy the software to the micro SD card. You pop the micro SD card into the slot on your Raspberry Pi. You connect it to a 5 volt power supply, whether you use a power bank or plug-in one, and to begin with you connect the Ethernet cable from your router to the Raspberry Pi, and then you can log into the device. Before you do that, you'll need to access your router from your computer to find out the IP address of your Raspberry Pi, and once you've got that, you can log into the Raspberry Pi, and once you have done that, you can enable the Wi-Fi. You turn it on and then you scan for the Wi-Fi networks. You choose your home network and you enter your password in the appropriate box, Once you've done that, you can turn your Raspberry Pi off, disconnect the Ethernet cable. You can then take it to wherever you want to put it, and the Raspberry Pi will connect to your router over Wi-Fi, and that's one less cable you need to connect your Raspberry Pi to the router, especially in my case, as the router is in the room next door and I need a long cable to get to it. I don't have a cable and I'd have to buy one, so connecting to the router via Wi-Fi is a lot easier. And as I said, I'm getting the 5V power through a DC to DC converter connected to the 12V battery bank that the charge controller is charging. So my router is powered by 12V, and the Raspberry Pi is powered from 12V through the 5V DC to DC converter, and I have a fuse between the battery bank and the router and the battery side of the DC to DC converter. You should always have a fuse in any positive line in your system. You should connect a fuse between the battery and whatever device you're powering, so that if the device goes faulty, it'll blow the fuse rather than going up in smoke and creating any damage. So that part of the system is pretty simple. The cable I use to connect to the charge controller is a VE direct to USB cable. I bought a Victron one off of eBay and it cost £27. So my monitoring system cost £25 for the Raspberry Pi and £27 for the USB cable. That's a lot less than £300 for the Colour Control GX. So that's the hardware side of that. So let's go back to this, go back to the iPad. So once you've set up the Raspberry Pi, you can log in, you can view it over your home network. This is what I have here, and this is the remote console for the Colour Control GX software. So basically the Raspberry Pi is emulating the Colour Control GX. That's basically what it does. So I have the Smart Solar Charger, the MPPT 100/20, and I am viewing its details over my local Wi-Fi network. Now this is good while I'm at home, but if I want to view this over the internet, then what you can do is you can sign up to the VRM portal that's provided by Victron Energy. You set up a free account on it, and the way it works is that I go back to the remote console. If you go to a different menu on this, there's a section for the VRM portal. I might actually go to it. Let's see. Just move this up. So enter something, and then if I go to VRM portal, and then you will see there's a section that says VRM portal ID. You note the portal ID that I'm hiding with my finger, and if you go onto the website, the VRM portal, and you go to the setup. When you've created your account, it will ask you to enter the portal ID, and then it can link to your device. I will just go back out of this. So that's what links your device to the VRM portal. We'll just go back again. And okay, so this is the current status of my charge controller. It's at night now, so there's no power coming in. My battery is at 12.52 volts, and you can scroll down to various things. The daily history tells you bear with me. Okay, so today the weather wasn't very good, so I only brought in 40 watt hours. The maximum power from the solar panels was 28 watts, and the maximum voltage from the solar panels was 37.92 volts. I will say that I have two 100 watt solar panels wired in series to give about 40 volts. My battery bank went down to 12.49 volts overnight, and the highest voltage reached during the day was 13.04 volts, and the maximum charging current was 2.1 amps. So you can get lots of information out of this. If I go back to the portal, right, this is the VRM portal web page, and this is for my system. And the Color Control GX sends its data to the VRM portal at certain intervals. I have it set to every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes it sends the information to the VRM portal. So here it says that the last update was 5 minutes ago. So this is my installation. It's called Roland Solar. You can call this whatever you like, but the main thing is that you can click on the menu on the side. Click on the menu, and you can go to the remote console. It takes a few seconds to load. Now this is the same console that you was looking at over your own local network, but I'm viewing this over the internet. So I can view this from anywhere where I have an internet connection. So I can view, or you can view, get back to the top. So you can view this information anywhere on the internet. So you could, if you had your mobile phone, you could view this wherever you want. Since I only have an iPod Touch that only has internet access over Wi-Fi, I could view this on public transport where there's Wi-Fi, or at work where we have public Wi-Fi. So I can monitor my system at any time during the day over the internet, and that's what I wanted to be able to do. And you can do this fairly inexpensively. So this is Solar Tiger with a video about my Victron Energy solar charge controller and how to monitor it remotely, either by Bluetooth, over your home network, or over the internet, with the tools that you can get from Victron Energy. You can either buy a dedicated device that has a screen, or you can go with the cheaper option of the Raspberry Pi, where you have to log into the device from your phone, tablet or computer. But it is cheaper than the Color Control GX, and basically we are using the Raspberry Pi to emulate the Color Control GX. It runs exactly the same software as the Color Control GX, but it's a lot cheaper than buying the dedicated device. Also, with this, you can use other Victron devices. Right here you can see that I have only the Smart Solar Charge Controller, but if you had the Victron battery monitor, the BMV 700 or 712 or other models, then it would be listed here. You could also view Victron inverters and chargers as well. They make a whole range of devices that are either Bluetooth enabled, or you can connect them over using various cables, and you can use the Color Control GX to monitor all your devices, or you can use its emulator on the Raspberry Pi to do exactly the same thing. So you can view everything in one place, and what you can do is you can have a home screen that shows you different things. Obviously I only have the Solar Charge Controller, so I'm only seeing the battery voltage, and go to a more appropriate screen. Right, so because I don't have any AC chargers or inverters or anything else from Victron, I only have the Solar Charge Controller, I can have this screen where I can see the voltage of the battery bank, the wattage coming from the Solar Charge Controller, and the wattage of any devices connected to the load output of the charge controller. If you have other devices, then it will show you more information. So if you had the Victron battery monitor, then it would show you the state of charge here, as well as a few other things with the battery. If you had any of the inverters, it would show you the AC loads connected to the inverter. And if you had any of the battery chargers, the Victron ones, it would show you how much the charge from the mains that you was putting into your batteries. So you can choose a screen whichever one is appropriate to you. It also shows the current time, and if there are any alarms, you can, if you have the other equipment, you can set alarms for high voltage or low voltage and other things like that. If you had a fault, it would show up on here. So the Victron stuff is very good. There's a lot you can do with it, and I'm still just learning because I bought my charge controller only a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago. I bought it around Christmas time, so I'm learning more about it. This is Solar Tiger with a video about my Victron charge controller and my monitoring system. If you have any questions, then please let me know, and if you have any comments, you can note them down below, and I will be happy to answer queries or learn from other people. So this is my monitoring system using the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, and this is Solar Tiger saying goodbye, and until next time, I will see you in another video. Thank you.